Hey guys, welcome back to Style Over Substance with me, Scarlett.
And I'm Mim.
This week we have a really special episode. We are joined by Brian Sacawa. He is the man behind Hespoke Style, the website and the YouTube channel. And of course, he is ever present on Instagram as well. He is the beacon of suave, sophisticated menswear, suited and booted. His blog has been going since 2013, and he is just a really cool dude.
Really down to earth.
Yeah, we really enjoyed speaking to him, and so we hope you enjoy the episode as much as we loved recording it.
The reason why we approached you to kind of be you're our first male guest, actually.
I'm honored.
Yeah. And the first guest that we don't know personally. And the reason why you came up on my radar to approach to have and come on our podcast is because when I got a job it was in men's merchandising, and it was in formal men's merchandising. Prior to that, I'd done men's leather goods. And I was like, I think I really need to brush up on my suit knowledge because that would have been essentially the biggest part of my job, like smart suiting and things like that. And I felt like I really need to get to grips with terminology and styling and the sorts of men out there who are interested in this sort of thing. And I came across your YouTube, and I have binged your YouTube over the summer. So that's how I came to know Hespoke Style. And so when you say that you might not be the perfect guest for us, it's completely, the opposite.
Well, thank you. Thanks for binging the channel too. Appreciate it. That's really become like a focus of mine over the years. I've been in the quote unquote influencer industry for about 8 years now. And when I came into the industry, it was just really different than it is now. And maybe it's just me like being kind of like an OG and like, older than a lot of like, the younger folks who kind of are in the industry now. But, I like look back and I'm like, oh, remember the good old days when it was so simple and, people just had a blog and everything. And that was like basically what we were measured on. And it's changed so much over the years. And one of the things that's been, you mentioned the YouTube channel. I mean, basically I started with the website, but the thing that really drove me to focus on YouTube was the fact that I was just sort of feeling like Instagram is great and it's a really great place to share, beautiful pictures and find inspiration and so on. But I felt like it was really hard to make a connection with people on the level that I was hoping to connect with them at. And in a way, I really view Instagram for me is the art gallery, right? It's the most perfect curated version of what we want to put out about ourselves or whatever we're trying to, the story we're trying to tell about us and what we represent and the brand that we represent. Whether it's a personal brand or a brand that we're working with, but it's such a passive medium, right? I watch people scroll on Instagram and it's just like the photo is here and gone in seconds. And in the engagement is very passive, like, liking a photo or, hey, cool outfit, or just these one word responses. That just like, for me, there was like something lacking in that. And I didn't feel like I had this personal connection with people. So, and then on the flip side of it is you see all people coming up and so on, and basically everyone's like taking the same pictures and wearing the same thing and going to the same place and taking the exact same shot of Positano or wherever in New York City. Everyone becomes like a creative director and can just like mimic the photos that they're seeing. So I was sort of struggling with the idea of like, well, what are these people actually saying? What do they have to say? Like, what do they want to communicate other than like, hey, look at this pretty picture of myself, right? And look at all these cool things I have, or these expensive things that I have, or these awesome places that I travel. Like, do they really have something to say? Do they really know what they're talking about? And the only way I could think to get past that was to actually go on camera and talk to people directly. And it was a big shift for us because from the beginning, like the focus was beautiful photography and very relatable style advice that was digestible, not too much information, but just enough to kind of like get you through. And like, I want to come to something and read about something and have some takeaways right away, right? I'm not writing an encyclopedia article about something. And I think a lot of people latched onto that and appreciated it. So that was the focus. And then when we decided to focus more on video, it was, we're a small team and we were even smaller back then, but it was like, okay, we need to set priorities here and decide what we're actually going to focus on. And this, we placed a bet, like this is where we want to go and this is why we want to do it. And I've really been overwhelmed with the response that we've gotten on the YouTube channel simply because of that, because I do feel that connection with people in a more genuine way than I ever have before. So, it really reinvigorated my interest and excitement about sharing my passion for men's style with more people, because there's a more immediate connection with people, and you can really see in their comments. People on YouTube take the time to write very thoughtful comments in a way that I had not experienced on Instagram. So there's that.
Yeah, that's true. I think like with YouTube, it's more like an offering of like, if you have skills in a particular area, you can teach someone how to tie a tie, someone like how to shop for certain things. Whereas Instagram, it's just about the look, not in a bad way, but in a
right.
It's completely two different disciplines.
There are some people who do a very good job of creating that engagement on Instagram, and they'll write very thoughtful captions. There's a lot of people in watches that have amazing feeds on Instagram. A lot of people in watches will create a very have that sort of engagement, but in fashion and style, it's rare. There are very few that create that sort of engagement that I crave with my audience. So YouTube has been the way that we've really been able to do that.
I was just going to ask about how that shift was initially with YouTube. Because like you said, YouTube was a very different world back then. So it was much kinder. It was much less judgmental. And like, I guess that shift now, do you find yourself sort of being more guarded, or kind of, do you think you've now created kind of an audience that knows you and there's no fear of judgment or all of that kind of a thing? Or do you find it much more judgmental and harder to navigate?
That's a really good question. And I think what you mentioned earlier about, you're able to kind of, well, the great thing about YouTube is that you really find your tribe in a way.
Yeah.
Like if people don't like what you're talking about, they're not going to be fed that information, right? If they're interested in if they're interested in style, they're going to find the channel. And one of the things that I think was kind of worked in our favor is the timing at which we decided to put our eggs in that basket. Not all of the eggs, but just like I started about 8 years ago. There's always like new people coming up and have new voices being added to the conversation. But, over time, like people sort of like, they like thirst for a different voice. They want something different than what they're used to on the platform. And YouTube was the same in that there's like a handful of, OGs who've been around forever, and they do their thing. But the people looking for the style information want to hear from someone different. So we came on, I think, at a good time when people are like, man, I want to talk to someone else or get a different perspective. So in a way, we were filling a little bit of a void, I feel. And the way we approach content has always been, approachable, relatable, digestible, not too much information. Like, hey, like this is my journey, and these are the things that I've learned, and I think people really connected to that, and that's the way that we approached making the YouTube content. And we also are very particular about how we shoot. We only want to produce really high quality stuff. So I think on YouTube, people really respond to that. Like they can tell. You don't have to tell them like, hey, like here's our setup and all the time we spent putting into our videos. People can tell when you've put the effort into making something of quality for them. So we get pretty good feedback. I don't necessarily, like, as I said, if people don't like it, they're generally not finding it, I don't think. And it's rare that we'll have, something that is more divisive or that people get upset about. That's not really what I'm after when I'm on YouTube. I'm not. So it's more about just communicating with people and helping them achieve the goals that they want to achieve, using style as a vehicle to do that.
So you said obviously that you've been on YouTube for a while, and of course Instagram. What is the reason that you wanted to? I mean, you're an influencer at this point, whether you like it or not. When was the turning point for you? It was like, yeah, I want to go into social media kind of in a professional sense and produce content about the topics that I love, which is like styling and men's fashion. And because, correct me if I'm wrong, your background is more of a musician background.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the army.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's an awesome question. And I think the answer will be very unexpected.
Okay.
So you're correct. I'm a musician. I'm a saxophonist, and I play the saxophone in the U.S. Army Field Band from Washington, D.C. Our job is to connect Americans to the Army through music. I've been doing it for just about 18 years now. It's pretty awesome. And what I love about it and what I love about music is that it allows me to connect with people and make a difference in their lives in a very powerful way. It's not something that you can necessarily quantify, right? You can't say like how many people you moved with this particular, piece you might have played, but you all know, and everyone knows, that the power of music to move it heals, it inspires, it unites people, it can make you cry, it can make you laugh, it can make you feel something, it can make you remember a certain time in your life, right? That's a very powerful thing, and that's what I really love about it. So the truth is, when the reason I got into it is I'm just like a very creative person. I have always had lots of extra projects in my life. So when I started Hespoke Style, it was February of 2013. And that point in my life, I had stopped doing two of my biggest extracurricular projects. So that was racing a bicycle. I raced for about 10 years and had gotten to like the top level of amateur cycling, won some races. And, I was cooked. That was it. I was done. I'd taken it as far as I wanted to. So after the season in 2012, in the fall, I was like, I'm done. no more cycling. And that's something that I had like eaten, breathed, slept, everything in my life revolved around that for close to 10 years. Also at the same time, I had been running a music series in Baltimore, which is where I live, as part of the Contemporary Museum, which sadly no longer exists in town. But, this was something I did for 5 years. We produced concerts of modern classical music. It sounds very nerdy, but there was, it was something I loved and enjoyed, and we created a little bit of a market for in the city. It was very popular, and I just, it's a nonprofit world, and I was not it wasn't really my thing. After doing it for 5 years, I'm like, you know what? I like playing. I like reaching people, but like the whole asking for money, part of it to keep it going, that just wasn't my thing. So I decided like, okay, we started this little series. We built it up to something pretty big. It had won like a national award for adventurous programming. I'm like, yeah, all right. I did it. It was fun. It's time to move on to something else. So I had cycling and the music series, and that they had completely just like, I didn't have those anymore. So I didn't really have anything extra to do. And, I needed to get this energy out somehow. And at that point I've always been interested in men's style, particularly like more, classic men's style, and aware of the power that it has over someone to give them confidence and help them, what we say on the channel is unlock their potential. That's what I hear over and over again from people, is that like dressing well makes me feel good about myself, gives me more confidence. And when I feel that way, I can achieve anything that I put my mind to. So that was something I was like, there were a couple men's style websites out there, but none that really spoke to me at that point. I was like 35 years old. There were just a handful of websites, and they fell into two categories. They were like the very informational type of websites, very encyclopedic. Like if I wanted to learn about, the history of the ascot or something, I could read 50,000 words about it on a particular website or in a particular forum, but there wasn't a lot of like practical, there was nothing to like, it was all like archival photos. It wasn't anything that applied to me. But so if I like happened to be a gentleman in the 1920s and I wanted to know how to dress, like these were great resources. But for me as like a 35-year-old guy in 2012 or 13, that wasn't really speaking to me. And then, of course, the other side of it was there were like younger guys with more of like a hip street style kind of thing. And that didn't really speak to me either, because it just, although they had great inspiration, amazing photography, it just wasn't the way I liked to dress. So there really wasn't a website that I could go to that spoke to me. And that was like, that just resonated with me in that way. So I decided there's got to be like other people like me out there who may be having the same thoughts. So I'm like, I'm just gonna like start this thing with, hopefully it's sharing my journey. That's basically how it started. And then it was just people latched onto it because I think it really did fill a void at the time in the menswear online. And it's crazy to think about how much it's evolved over then. But that's basically how I got started and why I got started.
And so when you started, did you have lots of pieces that you kind of already could style and put together? Or was it very much like, oh, this is what's available at this shop that I'm interested, or I've just bought to put this look together because I'm striving to actually take my passion of smart dressing further? Did you have lots of stuff? Did you have to like build it up over the time for like newer looks and stuff? How did that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say like this coincided with an awakening. Sounds wrong, but like it's not an awakening. It was more like I've decided that I am going to finally put the effort into and thought into curating a wardrobe that I can wear and will make me feel good. So some of the pieces.
I'm hoping this is going to happen for me one day.
so now, like, listen, like, what I've learned is that women dress very differently, or their approach to dressing is very
chaotic,
very different than men. Like, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would say like women tend to be more outfit driven. And it's like, oh, there's this pretty dress. Like, I want this pretty dress. And like, so you buy like pieces. But like guys, a male approach to it, at least that I found, is that it's like, I want to know what are the basic things I need to have. What is this like foundational collection that I can build and how versatile will it be? How versatile can it be? What's the maximum versatility that I can have? What are those pieces that I need? And then from there, you kind of get like bit by the bug, or you can expand into other areas. So to answer your question, I had like some things, but like really this was sort of the beginning of me kind of cataloging my journey into developing this wardrobe that's foundational and versatile. So in the beginning, I started like a lot of people with what would be available easily, which I wore a lot of J. Crew, just because it sort of had a Brooks Brothers. That was the style that I liked. It's like sporty, but classic, kind of American.
Yeah.
And then through what I was fortunate with is that as I started this, it really we really sort of were doing it. There was this wave that was starting to happen in online and menswear and the influencer industry. There were a lot of women back then doing it, but there weren't a lot of guys doing it. So we were really one of the first, and I say we because I had like my photographer, I would consider like part of the team, same person I still work with. But we were out there, we were doing it. So we got noticed very quickly. And like everything that I get into, like I didn't just like, oh, I'm gonna like haphazardly like write a post every now and then. Like literally before I started, I had mapped out like 6 months to a year of content of how it was going to go down.
Oh my gosh!
So
that's so clever to think ahead and make it something you can't fail at either. Like so that you can't run out of inspiration.
I had done other web-based projects in the past, or like written for websites and so on. So I understood the power that medium could have. And it's not like saying this now, it sounds so absurd because it's like everything is online and everyone knows, and pretty much everyone can do it now because, the camera on your phone is better than most cameras that people would buy back then.
Yeah.
Right. It's so easy, and the access to editing software, and you can just download these, filters and whatever. There was none of that.
Yeah.
But so I also knew that paying attention to the back end of things that maybe a lot of people didn't think about, like SEO and making sure I was keywording properly, that also helps get you noticed. And it's something that takes an incredible amount of extra time to do. But if you're serious about it, I think it's a part of the process that needs to be there.
Yeah. What you've said's kind of like sprung into my mind. Like I remember years ago when I was first looking at these street style photos and being like, wow, these people have amazing clothes and they just happen to be going to these fashion weeks. And then later on down the line, I kind of learned that like, no, this is not by accident. This is like, these people might not be invited to any shows or, be kind of in the industry as such. But by being strategic about being at the right place at the right time, taking photos that were really like deliberately creating like this is their lifestyle. It made me believe like I don't know, believe in this like street style thing. Now we're all kind of more attuned to what it takes to kind of do all of that. But I remember years ago thinking like, these people just wear these clothes all the time. And
yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it's like, you can think about it two ways. And I have to say, like, unfortunately, because I've been around it for so long and in this industry, that I tend to take a more cynical view of it. I used to go in the beginning, like we all did the Fashion Week thing. This was even back in when they would do New York Fashion Week, and it was still at Lincoln Center, not anymore. It's just kind of this weird thing. But, I did that for 2 years, and sure, it was exciting to be around all the people that you would just see online or in their blog posts and stuff. But then, like, over time, as you say, like, it just became like this circus of people loitering around, like wanting to get their photo taken. And I was just like, what is the point? Like, why are you here? Like, you have no reason to be here other than like you want to have your photo in like a New York Times style roundup slideshow. Like, what is that? And I mean, it takes all kinds, and everyone's like looking for something different. But for me, that's just, I don't know, that's not what it should be about. It becomes more about the it's like a culture of me and like, look at me. And that's a real distinction that I make. And I have made. It's like, I always say there's like two different types of people in this industry. There's look at me people, and there's listen to me people. And the look at me people, they're not really going to be my friends, or I'm not going to be friends with them. It's the listen to me people. It's, what do you have to say? Like, have you really thought about it? Like, what do you have to contribute to the conversation? Those are the types of folks that I gravitate towards. So, but that even happens in menswear too. There's a famous trade show that happens in Florence called Pitti Uomo. I'm sure you've heard of it. The only thing that people knew about that is the awesome photos that you would see of these like really eccentric, dapper men, standing outside the plaza and smoking their little Italian cured cigars and stuff. And, that's really who they are, right? They're not pretending. But then over time, people were like, ooh, I want to do that too. Or I want to dress up like that, or be the loudest person, or just stand here around here, like pretending to scroll on my phone. So perhaps I get put in this like GQ roundup, slideshow.
It's a bit cringe, actually. Now that you
there's actually a really funny mockumentary they made. I can't remember who did it, but if you search for it on YouTube, it's like something about Pitti peacocks, and it's like made in the style of like a Wild Kingdom kind of African safari video where it's like, and now we see the blah, 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 blah. It's pretty funny, but it's so true. It's funny because it's true. But that's so like, I can't tell you the last time I've been to something like that. And I pretty much have stayed away from fashion weeks unless there is a incredibly legitimate reason for me to go. Like, just sitting at a fashion show, I don't care. Like, I don't care to like be seen. I don't need my photo taken like that. But if I'm like going there like as an ambassador for a brand, or like there's some specific activation that we're doing, yeah, I'll do it for that. But I'm not going out of my way to do that just to try to get my photo taken.
We interrupt this broadcast to remind you, go follow us on Instagram, Style Over Substance Pod. Shoot us an email, styleoversubstancepeak@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter. We've got all the links on our Instagram. You know what to do.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to the Style Over Substance podcast, everyone. I'm Brian Sacawa, joined by your hosts, actually, Scarlett and Mim. And Mim, I have to tell you, your glasses are spectacular.
Oh my God. So much. Thanks. Yeah, I think they're great too.
What brand are they? I love them.
They are Jimmy Fairley. I don't know how international the brand is, but they're quite a small, in the past like 3 years, all these like small opticians have started popping up.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of them. And they have a couple stores in London. And I hate to say it, I think this is limited edition. Because I went hunting for this style. So yeah, but they're a good brand. They've got other stuff. But yeah, Jimmy Fairley.
They remind me of, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Do you know the movie Argo?
Yes.
Oh, do you?
The
it's fab.
Canadian Prime Minister?
Yes.
Yeah, they look like his glasses. I love them.
We'll put a photo of it on our Instagram.
Okay, who wore it better? Yeah. You know what it is? Because I needed glasses, especially for distance. And I was like, I can't get something that's like I don't want to wear them. Do you know what I mean? You have to get something that you feel comfortable wearing and that you think they make your face look better. So I went hunting for something, yeah. It'd be interesting to get your take on, especially as someone who focuses on like more formal styling or more like curated wardrobe. What do you think men's fashion has in store after this, what we call the big C? And are men still going to be interested in this sort of styling? Are they going to be even more interested in it? I mean, we talk about how our post-lockdown looks will be and how we'll be like even better dressed then. Mm-hmm. What's kind of your view on the future of styling?
I feel from the perspective that I'm coming from that nothing is really going to change. People will go back to work and have to wear a suit or dress smartly. So I don't really think anything is going to change at all. I mean, listen, like a suit has been a suit for how many years, right? There's not really much you can do to it to make it different. It's just become a uniform of sorts for guys. And so I really don't foresee any sort of lasting changes in terms of traditional, more conservative, let's say like classic menswear.
And have you found yourself, I mean, I know that the US is experiencing a very different COVID to the UK at times, but have you found that everyone's been living in casual wear kind of whilst they're housebound, or are you somebody who's dressing up every day to keep some form of a routine? And I guess obviously you're still working throughout it and creating content where, like, I guess no one wants to see you in your joggers or your sweatpants with some ketchup stains on or something.
Right. That's a really interesting question. And it was one that, it's like it was been a moving target in a way.
Yeah.
And especially in the very beginning, it's like, okay, how are we going to, as a content creator, like, how are we going to deal with it? And almost immediately, everyone had the same idea. And it was like, let's make a work from home outfit video. And I didn't do that. I did. I lied. I did, but I made it focused on my community. I asked people to send me their best work from home outfits because what I wanted to do was because I had the megaphone or the platform that I had, I wanted to let people know that we were kind of all in this together. Right. And I felt like having my followers and my audience and my viewers share photos of themselves would show the community that I have around the YouTube channel specifically that, hey, like, we're all going through this. We're all approaching it in different ways. So, we'll get through this together. But as far as like, it was definitely tough in the beginning because it's like, no one knows what's going on. People are scared. Like no one knows what's going to happen, what the future holds. So I kind of just chilled out for a little while. It's like, well, what do people really want to see? And in the beginning, I'm like, you know what? I don't think people want to see anything. Like, they need to deal with this in their own way. And I felt that perhaps just continuing like nothing was going on would have been insensitive and or come off as sort of trite. Like
that you're not affected.
Right. And or that like this is a nothing's happening, nothing's wrong. Like we should all just pretend like it's never changed. But then I would say over a few months or after a few months, I kind of felt like people were yearning for some sense of normalcy, maybe something to look forward to. And all sorts of people did all sorts of different things. There are some people I follow on Instagram who made a habit of like every Friday they would post like a photo of them dressed up in a tuxedo or some kind of dinner jacket. And, it was just something that they did for themselves to feel good and maybe, keep some positive energy going. But I think so about maybe 3 or 4. Well, the other thing that people were doing that I saw that no one really cared about or did not really perform well was like, oh, the other like great idea that everyone had at the same time was like, oh, let's record like a Zoom call and make it a video, and that just, it's boring unless because like, listen, like YouTube is a very visual medium and you have to keep the visual cadence moving to keep people interested. So unless like someone is like a real hardcore subscriber, like even look at some of like the big podcasters on YouTube, like Joe Rogan, like there's three different camera angles that they're using when they cut that podcast together that you're watching, in addition to like screen recordings and images they put up. So there's a lot of visual information. So this like side by side head thing, and we did one video of that with my photographer and I talking about our 10 favorite photo shoots that we had done over the years. But like it's just boring for people to watch. So we didn't do that. Even when I was doing the podcast with my friend in Germany, we were doing that, but like we made a point of having cameras set up and I would have my video editor cut between us. But even then it was still much more of a community video because of the length and so on. But I would say about 3 or 4 months, getting back on the actual question, into it, I was like, you know what, like, not only for the audience, but for me too, like I need to keep doing something. And so we just sort of eased back into, I would say business as usual. So, and, with outfit videos and stuff, we'd occasionally get comments like, oh, well, what about masks and so on and so forth. So, but it was, I think at that point, the communication environment had changed enough that people had sort of adapted to the new way of being, and that returning to a more normal style of content was fine. And I think you see that throughout like media. And also, I mean, think about back to the beginning, people are like, all these like famous news anchors and stuff are on their phones and it looks bad in their house. It's like they're not sitting at the desk that they're usually sitting at. So, yeah.
Have you ever been to the UK?
I have. I absolutely love it.
Do you?
Of the cities I've been to, I mean, maybe it's like, you get a sense of a place when you visit there, whether it feels like you or it feels comfortable to you or whatever. And the experiences that I've had visiting London have been phenomenal. So, I mean, I was fortunate to stay in like a cool area. It's what you make of it, I assume, and the experience that you have. But it just feels like I have friends there, and we did fun things, and I liked being close to. I had never been to Savile Row. So it was fun to kind of walk around there, and I really enjoyed the UK. Or well,
and
London.
What do you make of British, or I guess London? Let's make it London because Britain is a whole mess sometimes.
I know. I watched The Crown on Netflix.
Yeah. So what did you make of like UK British style compared to American style, particularly for the menswear? Does it kind of have a similar like feel to your style, or is it kind of very different? What did you make of it?
I mean, there's all sorts of people, right? It's not to say like we have this, you know, we can make an image in our mind of like, oh, all Italians look like this, or all Londoners dress like this, and and so on. But you know, there's like definitely like a gritty side to London style as well, street style, and so on. So I wouldn't say. I mean, it's the group you kind of find yourself with, right? Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't necessarily make generalizations. But actually, going back to what you said about you know, negative comments on YouTube, I will occasionally get some, and the saltiest among them are always from like British people.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what it is.
Well, because you're not wearing an item correctly, or like a British item? I don't know.
I don't know. You know, I don't know. It's just like it's more. It seems more like they're not down with just like a more classic traditional style of dressing, and they want to let me
know.
Keyboard warriors, hey?
Yeah. That's really interesting. Would you say, I know you can't generalize, like the US is massive and the UK is pretty small, but would you say in general that Brits are more or less casual or smarter than people in the States?
Man, that's a really difficult question to answer. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it depends on who you are.
Yeah.
And you know what your job is, really, how you like to dress. So.
Yeah, that's true.
And so who are the people that you look to for style and inspiration, especially when you were starting up with your blog and obviously wanting to create, I guess, this plan you had? Who were you looking towards to build up this wardrobe and make it what you aspired it to be?
I mean, it sounds like so cliche at this point, but like guys like me, there's just, everyone has a story about how the character James Bond has affected like their desire, specifically Sean Connery, James Bond, you know, because those are people look at those movies and it just, you see this like cool guy and he drives a cool car and he looks good and he always gets the girl and he has like awesome gadgets to play around with all the time. Like who doesn't want to be like that, right?
Exactly.
But I think what you see with James Bond is like the confidence that the character has, and part of that is dressing the way he did. You know, I look to, as much as I said before, like, you know, it's not about like dressing like old times or the 1920s or whatever. Like, you know, there are those very stylish and elegant guys from movies long ago that just, they wore a suit great. There was like an ease and an effortlessness to what they did. Like I'm talking like Cary Grant is like one of the first that comes to mind. Humphrey Bogart, all of those classic male actors. William Powell as Nick Charles in The Thin Man. You know, those types of guys. Because not only were all of those people like really dressed really well and look put together, but they were very talented. They're funny. They had a great personality, and it's like the complete package.
Yeah. On your website, it says that you think style is far more about like than just the clothes that you wear. So would you say it's that like sense of effortlessness in whatever you wear is the thing that makes people stylish? And for example, if you were a guy and didn't have like a lot of money now, but wanted to enter into styling, what would you say is like the first thing that kind of initiates you into great style?
That's a really good question. I think, it's very timely too, because we're actually putting together a video that I've wanted to do for a long time, specifically for the person that you are talking about. It's like, what would be the ultimate beginner capsule wardrobe? Like if you had, if you were looking to build like this beginning wardrobe and you could have 25 pieces in it, what would those be?
Amazing.
And, for me, it's, you got to have, even the guy who doesn't wear one suit needs to have a suit. And a navy suit and a hopsack fabric, I think, is a great choice because it's versatile, makes it easy to break apart and wear it as separates, especially the jacket. Add in a sport coat. Got to have like some shirts on the dressier side. We're talking like a white poplin shirt, ice blue Oxford cloth shirt. Throw in a striped shirt and an Oxford cloth too, just for a little bit of pattern, break things up a little bit. And I think you should have a pair of gray trousers as well. Moving on to like the business casual side, V-neck sweater. I'm a big fan of like a plain old heather gray athletic sweatshirt. I think it's really good for casual options. You can also like dress down more smarter looks. I think having like a white button down collar is great. Got to have a denim shirt too. That's one of the best pieces for dressing down a suit. It's a no-brainer. It gives you like tons of options. And it really, for me, there's like a sportiness to it that I really like. Got to have navy chinos, khaki chinos, 2 pairs of jeans, dark denim, light wash denim. Could do it with 4 pairs of shoes, dark brown Oxfords, pair of loafers. I like tassel loafers, cap toe boots, and white leather sneakers. And then coats, I would have a navy overcoat, a navy pea coat, and a more casual coat like a barber. And then for talking about accessories, I would do just a solid navy grenadine tie, white pocket square, leather belt, and a watch. So those would be my 25 items.
Nice.
Amazing.
Beginning capsule wardrobe.
that was bum 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 bum. That was
I would have been there all day like
But that's kind of interesting because going back to what you said about men kind of approach styling in a different way. I don't think I've really ever approached my wardrobe in a what is essential. It's full of non-essentials, but except maybe like a pair of heels and a black dress and that's
yeah, like
really...
what are those, like it's like what are those staple things that you'll always wear, you'll always have an opportunity to wear, or even if you don't, like a nice black dress, right? It's nice to have that like perfect one that you can always turn to. But I didn't even know like my wife, she gets, I wouldn't say she gets bored, but she always wants to have something new and like refresh in a certain way, so it's like just that same wearing the same dress all the time would get boring. I think.
Yeah, we've spoken about suits from a perspective of they're just far more eco-friendly and just it's so much kind of better, I guess, for your wallet and for the environment to have that approach to styling. What do you think?
Yeah, and that actually opens up a completely different can of worms, which is something I like to talk about, and that's cost per wear. And talking about
Scarlett loves a cost per wear.
investing in quality, right?
Yeah,
because you could buy a suit for $50 on like ASOS or something. Probably, I haven't looked at ASOS in a long time, but or you could spend $1,000 or $1,500, and there is a humongous difference in the quality of that suit. It's going to look different in the way it fits you. The fabric is the way it's made, the way the fabric drapes on you. If it's made specifically for you, that makes a big difference too. Like the suits that I have, and one of the shifts that kind of I had to make mentally, going back to sort of my journey in this whole thing, is like I think every guy reaches a point when they get into style, air quotes there, I'm into style, where they want to like they're really into it and they want to show people that they're into it. So like as a result, like it might go overboard, maybe too many accessories, colors too loud, or things don't really match up together. But it's like this kind of like test and learn that we all kind of do. And like we're testing our boundaries. What are we comfortable with? You know, and so on. And then of course, like for me, like being in a position where it's like I'm always posting photos of myself, it's like, all right, well, I don't want to post the same thing over and over again. But then at a certain point I was like, you know what, I'm kind of sick of that. Like what's really driving this? It's not like it shouldn't be about buying something new just to look different, right? There's like, so at a certain point I was like, I'm kind of done with that. I just want to, like, I'm comfortable and confident. I've found my thing, and that's this dressing this way. And there are variations on what you can do, and it became more about fabric and fit and little things like that and texture rather than having a different piece all the time. And it is more about you. I mean, I guess kind of what I think of is again, it goes back to sort of look at me versus listen to me. I don't ever want to be the loudest person in the room. Like, I think your clothing, well, my approach is like, I think your clothing should frame your face.
Yeah.
And the focus should be on you, not what you're wearing, right? Making a huge statement with something, there's a time and a place for it. But in general, you know, you should be the star, not the clothing that you wear. That should be secondary.
Yeah. The clothes shouldn't wear you.
I like that.
I didn't come up with that. Trust me.
Yeah, we know.
I wish. So who are your favorite menswear designers that you kind of look to time and time again for either inspiration or lusting after something? Do you follow the catwalks or
I would say I don't really follow fashion per se. I can, being from like a creative field, I appreciate the creativity that goes into it. So like, I think some people who gravitate towards the type of style that I do are very dismissive of fashion.
Right.
And because it's like, oh, well, I won't wear that. Who's going to wear that? Like, you know, sometimes, especially like runway shows, that's not what it's about. It's about,
it's not about walking down the street wearing that.
Right. It's a showcase. It's like a museum in a way. It's a showcase of a designer's creativity, and I'm all for pushing boundaries and innovating. I love that. I think it's really cool. Is it for me? No, but I'm not going to talk down on it or say that's stupid. So, but for me, I guess like one of the designers that I would look to or point to as just like a North Star would be Ralph Lauren. Yeah, I mean it's a very short list, and that would be the top for
That's
me.
the list.
Yeah. But then you know, you can also get into what's really interesting about men's suits and classic dressing like that is that different tailors have different types of signatures. And they're all very subtle and different. Like there's a very specific way that Neapolitans make a shoulder, right? Also, there's since I'm talking about shoulders, one of the tailors that I have worked with a couple times in London is Edward Sexton, and he along with Tommy Nutter really revolutionized Savile Row back in the 70s. They just returned to Savile Row. They were in Knightsbridge, but they just moved. They opened a shop back on Savile Row again. But like, it was before Sexton and Nutter. British tailoring was very, I would say, or my what I think is it was very stuffy, it didn't really reach out to a new audience and connect with the younger people. So Sexton and Nutter were making suits for like Mick Jagger and the Beatles and Twiggy, you know, so all of a sudden tailoring like took on a different, and their way of cutting a suit was very different. It was very unique, and they still have that style today, but like it introduced tailoring to a new generation that wouldn't necessarily have been interested in it or thought about going to Savile Row for tailoring before. And I've worked with Edward Sexton for a couple of things. And one of the distinctive features of his suits is how strong the shoulder is. I have a white dinner jacket that he did for my wedding. And then I also have a double-breasted, kind of like a royal blue flannel suit. And it has a very strong shoulder. And there's a tailor in Paris, Chiffonelli. They have a very specific way they cut the lapel. I mean, all these little differences, like if you know and you're really like attuned to that, you can look at them and say, oh, that's an Edward Sexton suit, or, you know, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, Taylor, I think I wish I'd worked in tailoring, to be honest. I always wanted to. But it's just so intricate, and so there's so much skill involved. It's a real art.
Yeah.
Following on from what you said, do you think that you've seen more interest from like younger and younger people to buy into tailoring? Or do you think it's just for those who are a little bit nostalgic at heart or have the sort of working environment where it requires them to wear a suit? Or do you think younger people are getting into that just in general?
I think yes to all of those questions. And it's all yes.
Yeah.
I think and everyone has all sorts of different reasons for why they want to, improve or put some thought into how they dress. A lot of times for me, I have this friend, and he's like he's sort of like the barometer, and I feel like he represents like a lot of men in the United States, and that like he got to this point where he is like, he's married, he has 3 kids, a dog, a single family home, 2 cars, everything. It's like that, and there's a certain point he was like, he's going to weddings, and maybe he wants to go out for a nice dinner with his wife, and he's like, man, I don't have anything to wear. He's like, I'm sick of dressing like I'm in college. Like, I want to know, like, I need to have these things because when I have an opportunity to do it, I want to look good and I want to feel good about myself. And I want my wife to be proud of me when I'm standing next to her. And like, for him, that's like, that's a driving factor is to like feel good. So that's something that I hear from a lot of people that follow and watch a channel and so on, is like that sort of sentiment where it's just a desire to kind of upgrade and like make a change and start to feel better about themselves.
What is the one fashion like no in air quotes that you think still works?
Fashion no that still works?
Yeah.
Just one, or can I pick 2?
You can pick 5 if you want.
Okay. I think people, there are certain rules. Let me tell you, some guys love rules and they're like such sticklers for them. And honestly, like when someone getting into it, they think about it too much. It's like, if it looks good, it is good. If it doesn't look good, then it doesn't work, so, and everyone has different tolerances for that. But one of the things I hear is like, can I combine black and brown? Yes. Yes, you can. Black and brown together. I think it looks great. Yeah. Same thing with like black and navy. Yes. It can work. Right. So those are like the 2 big ones that come immediately to mind.
What is your most worn item in your wardrobe?
I would say the pair of dark denim selvage jeans I have from RRL.
Nice. What's your favorite item in your wardrobe?
Favorite item.
And it doesn't have to be clothing. It could be an accessory. It can be Yeah.
I'm like looking around the room right now. Like, what is the favorite
what can I
thing?
choose?
Yeah. I have this brown Donegal tweed jacket blazer with suede elbow patches that I love this time of year. It was like one of the first pieces I ever had made for me about 8 years ago. And the fact that I still wear it and love it, and that it still fits, is makes me love it even more.
Yeah.
Next question. Do you prefer summer fashion or winter looks?
Winter. Very easy.
For layering?
Layering, there's just so much you can do with fabrics and layering and texture, and yeah, there's just more options in outerwear, scarves.
That's one thing that like peeves me when I see some like influencers and stuff. It's like they have these really nice looks, but then I'm like, I live in England, it's cold, I need a jumper with it, I need a cardigan. I can't wear like this like blouse with just a coat. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
And finally from me, what is the like something that you want to get next to add to your wardrobe collection? What's missing?
What's missing? Well, there's always something missing. Honestly, I'm going to be really boring here again. I want a very, very nice pair of just dark brown Oxford shoes. Like from a church, not like a Crockett and Jones.
Are you going to say
nice.
Churches?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not anymore.
Something from Crockett and Jones or Edward Green.
Okay,
amazing.
Cool. And my last questions to you is, I know you have a watch collection. If you could save one out of a burning building, which one are you not leaving behind?
That would be my